Let's begin with thought chatter. What were you thinking about 1 second ago? Maybe a thought occurred, then you added an image, and then a feeling, and on and on and on we go. We all do this automatically throughout the day. We spend a lot of time listening to ourselves talk inside our heads. Every time you read or decide or imagine something, there's an inner voice. And 40% of the time, we're attending to that inner voice. This kind of thought chatter is extremely normal for all of us. Thoughts about the future or past or songs, memories of friends, conversations we've had. But when inner talking gets stuck and starts spinning in a loop, then I call it chatter. Our heads are noisy places, and it's not always a bad thing. When it's daydreaming, scientists actually see it as a sign of intelligence. But sometimes the chatter in our heads gets destructive, and we may beat ourselves out of sensible risks that would really be good for us. Or we get stuck in a loop of worry or shame, and that is called ruminating. And our thought chatter becomes the most vocal at night. I'm sure that you've all experienced that. Then we become the judge and the jury and the accused all at once. And things in this inner court can get really unruly and out of control with constant criticism, opinion, and self-blame. My God, it doesn't stop. The important thing to remember is that chatter originates in our conditioning, in our conditioned mind, which is really like a child. It wants what it wants, and it wants it now. When you ignore it, it pulls on you, lashes out at times, all because it wants attention. It goes on and on with its endless chatter about how crappy life is, how awful the country is, or how dare so-and-so do this or that, etc. to us. So the first stage towards change is to become aware and to identify it. Observe it, but don't ignore or neglect it, and don't let it take over either. What really helps me is when I talk to my mind like a friend. I say to myself, I understand you're worried. I know what this means to you, but I want you to know that we'll get through this. We always have. So take it easy. And the second step is to stay in the present, which I know is not easy, of course. What this means is to stay in the moment that is, not the moment that isn't, not in the past or the future. Be here now. You can train yourself to do that. Take deep breaths because that's your closest connection to the present. Breath can only be in the present. The truth is that thoughts are fueled by the attention we give them. With meditation on breath or on a mantra or on a candle flame, we can switch our attention to another focus, and chatter begins to fade, and an inner stillness occurs. We can now feel calmer and, in a sense, more whole. And in time, it may become permanently slower and quieter. With practice, one loses interest in being at the mercy of these voices and gets good at becoming the observer. You really can do this. Distancing yourself and having a detached perspective eventually frees us from being the doer, and we can learn to get our power back with conscious effort, of course. The trick is to commit to a practice of this awareness, to remind oneself of the ability to stay centered more and more of the time, until that becomes the norm. So, until next time, stay happy and share a little of it too. What else is there?
That was this week's episode for the Cellular Alchemist podcast with spiritual psychologist Ritu Malhotra. Don't forget to follow the podcast and join us next week for yet another episode. Thank you for listening.